Okay, quality should be much better. Rewards and the criminals. Oh boy, here we go. Silence dominated the room as everyone wondered what to say to Hildebrand, who was weeping with his head in his hands. Ferdinand soon lost his patience and gave an annoyed sigh. A crying child is unwelcome here. Take him away if he cannot keep his composure. Though we have the entire evening ahead of us, there is not much time for everything we need to discuss. Rosamund, if you would continue. I thought there were better ways to deal with a crying child, but Ferdinand taking the cold approach didn't surprise me in the slightest. Besides, he was right. We still needed to decide a date for the transference ceremony, what information we would reveal to the duchies, how to treat the prisoners, and which royal would take care of which supposed deposed duchy. Magdalena took Hildebrand out of the room. Okay, so that's taken care of. As we have decided on the news end, let us begin discussing the future, I said. Then, goddamn. And turned my attention to the man still restrained on the floor. Prince Sigiswald, I would rather you return to your seat. We cannot leave a future odd bound while we are discussing the new territories and their borders. You would allow him to become an Ob after he was so disrespectful toward you, Troracle asked, looking at both Ferdinand and me. Are you certain, Lady Rosamund? I smiled and nodded. Prince Sigiswald is royalty. I, on the other hand, am only a member of an archducal family. A goddess might have died my mana, but my prince's uncouth behavior towards someone of lower status is not worth punishing. If we did take action, we would need to punish both his wives as well, will we not? I would rather avoid that outcome. I'm sick of women being disciplined for the actions of their husbands. If we charge Sigiswald with a crime, his wives would end up in a position even worse than being demoted to archducal family members. Letting him become an Ob made the most sense to me. Anywhere he fell short, his spouses would surely do their best to educate him, or so I thought. Adolphine looked exceptionally concerned, like she wasn't best pleased with the future I proposed for her. As we have seen, Prince Sigiswald does not know how to respect his superior, she said. Would becoming the Ob of a deposed duchy not be too great a burden for him? I shook my head. We promised to grant your family the Guterscheid in a way that hides its involvement in the recent conflict. Moreover, though, Prince Sigiswald was deemed unfit to take the throne. He has not committed any crimes of note. I see. Adolphine raised her head just enough to look at me. I could tell she was quietly contemplating something. Her searching amber eyes reminded me of Eglantine's moments before she had volunteered to become the next Zent. If the first prince causes problems after becoming an Ob, I said, the new Zent will punish him accordingly. He will not find it easy to adjust to his new life, but I trust he will quickly learn how to carry himself. You truly are compassionate. Troracle untied Sigiswald while instructing him to be grateful for my kindness. The first prince must have realized how much his status had changed after watching the discussion proceed without him as he carefully thanked me before taking his seat. Thank you. Magdalena returned around the same time, having handed Hildebrand to his retainers. I'm not acting out of compassion, though. If we had kept Sigiswald tied up, it would probably have delayed our plans. Sorry. It would probably have delayed our plans for the royals to become Obs of the deposed duchies, and the more time Ferdinand spent trying to work around that, the less time he spent on Operation Library City. Oh, come on! Forget about that for a moment. Get all the important things out of the way first. Then figure out your fun time, essentially. And by fun time, I mean figuring out how to set up a library city. I wanted to sort out this conversation, hand over the Guterscheid, restore my memories, and get started on my new project. That was all. Let us discuss the details of the transference ceremony, I said. Nobles from every duchy have gathered to gain intelligence, so I must ask Lady Eglantine to make her name stone as promptly as she can. Once it is ready, we shall perform the transference ceremony for presenting the Guterscheid and the acknowledgement ceremony with the Obs. Because the Obs were already at the academy, we could take care of all the ceremonies necessary for the crowning of a new Zent. Is there any need to hurry, Eglantine asked. If we inform the Obs that the divine avatar of Mestanora is granting me the Guterscheid, the ceremonies can wait until the Archduke Conference. We might not have time to prepare the auditorium any sooner. Ferdinand shook his head, his gaze stern. The goddess's mana will not last that long. Besides, Rosamund is to be recognized as an Ob during the coming Archduke Conference. She cannot act as one while her mana remains dyed, which is already causing her problems with the creation of registration brooches, among other things. At this rate, Aronsbach will not be able to participate at all. Would you have me spend another year working there without a proper Ob, knowing all that I endured under that incompetent fool of an Archduke candidate? Of course not. I thought preparing the ceremonies at such short notice might be too great of a burden, but I see now that Aronsbach views the situation quite differently. Duh! Eglantine had wanted to ease the burden on her retainers, the sovereign nobles, and the ops who had gathered so abruptly. That wasn't a bad thing. Many would thank her for encouraging a more reasonable pace. But if she overruled us using her status as a royal, Arensbach would end up in a truly awful situation. You can cause great problems for others simply by voicing an opinion, Ferdinand said. The word of the Zent bears that much weight. For now, we shall prioritize the needs of the divine avatar of Messinora over those of the royal family. His expression said it was time for the royals to put someone else first for a change. Eglantine nodded, wearing a solemn expression. Prepare the stage and altar in time for the transference ceremony, Ferdinand continued. It should not take long if the sovereign scholars and priests work together. As you are soon to be the sovereign high bishop, Lady Eglantine, I would advise that you ask your husband to support you. Am I going to the sovereign temple again? Anastasius muttered, his face contorting in a grimace. He must have expected it, though, as he agreed without much resistance. As I recall, the suggestion was made during last year's Archduke conference that Rose might be made the sovereign high bishop. I see no reason why Lady Eglantine or Prince Anastasius cannot perform the role. The couple glanced at Sigiswald, removing any doubt about who within the royal family had proposed the idea, of course. Lady Eglantine, once you are the Zent, the current sovereign temple will start being dismantled, and the one in the academy will need to be restored. Do what you can to make it accessible. You are to become its high bishop and set an example for the Duchess to follow. Ferdinand was saying that if the royals disliked the temple so much, this was their chance to rebuild it to their preferences. The two of us had been restructuring Ehrenfest's temple ever since Besenwant's died, so there was no reason a Zent couldn't do the same. As for you, Prince Anastasius, there's nothing to worry about, Ferdinand continued. Any negative association with the temple will dissipate. Soon, every Ob in the country will clamor to reconstruct the temple. We plan to reveal the Foundation's true location and the role of the Bible during the upcoming Archduke Conference. Once that happened, it was hard to envision anyone looking down on Eglantine for visiting the Sovereign Temple. Yeah, definitely. Furthermore, heading to the Sovereign Temple will give you an excellent opportunity to inform the priests of the temple's closure and their transfer. The Blue Priests and Shrine Maidens taken from the duchies after the Civil War will get a chance to return home, should their Obs desire it. The Royal Academy's temple will not need too many of them once prayer becomes more common among the students. Of course, the same cannot be said for the Grey Priests tasked with manual labor. Every single duchy was facing a mana shortage to some degree, so I doubted many Obs would refuse to take back their Blue Priests and Shrine Maidens. The change would also free up some of the sovereignty's budget. You make it sound so simple, but what about the Zent's living quarters? Anastasius asked. There is nowhere at the Royal Academy for Eglantine to stay. Ferdinand smiled. Are you forgetting the villa Rosamund was to receive as the king's adopted daughter? The furniture and overall decor are fit for a princess at the very least. You cannot be serious. Ferdinand gave an even broader grin, indicating that he was indeed serious. Anastasius gritted his teeth in response while Eglantine blinked in confusion. Of course, she does not know. Damn it. As all the men of the royal family went pale, I gave a smile of my own. King Trarqual and Prince Sigiswald prepared the villa for me. It should do as a temporary residence until the country is more stable and you have enough for excess mana to perform an end to account for yourselves. We were using the villa to move between Arensbach and the Royal Academy and to hold various criminals, but we intended to have the Arensbach dormitory up and running before the Archduke Conference, and our captives could just be moved to actual cells in the Sovereignty. They could even bring the bedding and such they were already using with them. As we have concluded that there are in fact living quarters on the Royal Academy's grounds, let us move to the next topic, I said. Lady Eglantine will need to dye the foundation swiftly upon inheriting the Gruterscheid. If she does not finish in time for the Archduke Conference, we will not be able to redraw borders or punish criminals. There is far too much that cannot be done with the Gruterscheid alone. Eglantine nodded and muttered, first the name swearing, then the transference ceremony, then dyeing the foundation. I shall also note that Gervasio, the leader of Lanzanov's invasion force, is currently imprisoned within Gelsenmeyer's country gate, Ferdinand interjected. He will at some point need to be retrieved. Is that task not best suited to Lady Rosamund, who could teleport between the gates? Anastasius asked. True, she needs to be able to open the country gate to get at him. Though he spoke politely, he was openly glaring at Ferdinand. He must not have wanted us to unload any more work on him. I am forbidden from leaving the dormitory in my current state, I said. As you have seen, when I am not wearing silver cloth, unexpected problems can arise. Moreover, Ferdinand added, Lady Eglantine has achieved nothing of worth since the war began. She should at least capture the enemy leader. No. Though she had likely been defending her villa, that paled in comparison to Anastasius fighting in the Auditorium and Magdalena smiting Roblat. Haha, I love that too. Having a clear, meaningful accomplishment to her name would play a crucial role in convincing the country's nobles to accept her. Ferdinand continued, Gervasio's staff has already been sealed, and as he was in prison 3 days ago, I imagine he has weakened to some degree. He should survive another week or so depending on the number and quality of rejuvenation potions at his disposal. I recommend taking around 10 nights when going to capture him. Judging by the instant death poison he had tried to use atop the altar, Gervasio probably had other Lanzanovian tools he could surprise us with. Ferdinand warned that Eglantine would probably be attacked as soon as she teleported in. On the other hand, if we do not need his memories to convict any criminals, we could simply leave him there. Murder was forbidden by the gods, but they said nothing about natural deaths. Ferdinand must not think highly of Gervasio to propose letting him starve to death. That said, Ferdinand continued, Gervasio knows much about obtaining the Grutushite. I would propose that Lady Eglantine view his memories. They could prove crucial to her future as the next Zent. Enough, Anastasia snapped, no longer able to contain his frustration. Even considering the circumstances, the memories of the Lanzanovians are too much for Eglantine to bear. The duties of the throne are not light by any means. It is your role as Lady Eglantine's husband to help her carry that burden, not run away from it. The couple swallowed hard. Charqual, who had created this predicament to begin with by abandoning his duties as the Zent, apologetically lowered his gaze. Now, as for the criminals other than Gervasio. I was trying to move our conversation along when Ferdinand stood up and gave a cloth-covered registration medal to Eglantine. I retrieved this from the Sovereign Temple. It belongs to the Lanzanovian king who did not come to Jurgenschmidt. As the future Zent... Dang it. God damn it. It falls to you to destroy it. Oh my, Eglantine said, cocking her head as she accepted the medal. Should we not at least attempt to negotiate with Lanzanov? We could demand reparations and get them to take full responsibility for the incident. Lanzanovians view Jurgenschmidt nobles as not as humans, but as a means to obtain mana. They were confirmed to be advancing the development of mana-stealing tools and instant-death poison, among other weapons. If you demand reparations, do so only with the understanding that any delegates you send are likely to be imprisoned or murdered for their faith stones. As someone who has dealt with Lanzanovians in Ahrensbach, I consider it best to close the country gate and leave them to their own devices. Yes. The royals froze. They had witnessed and experienced the impact of Trug on the sovereign nobles, but they hadn't encountered instant-death poison, nor had they received detailed reports about the slaughter of Ahrensbach nobles using silver cloth and weapons or the mass kidnapping of noblewomen. In short, they didn't understand the true threat that Lanzanov posed. I decided to weigh in as an ob. Considering the danger, I refused to open the gate to Lanzanov or send anyone from Ahrensbach as an envoy. In fact, I would rather the gate lead somewhere else. Lady Eglantine, I will not protest if you wish to prepare a delegation of sovereign nobles and send them to Lanzanov, but I will charge you to use our ships. Asking for money seemed reasonable enough. I doubted the ships would ever return, and the more funds I could put towards my library city, the better. Do you not intend to send the Lanzanovian prisoners back home? Sigiswald asked. Keeping too many will cause problems in terms of security and expenses. Though I wouldn't have minded returning them to Lanzanov, I shook my head. Irwerman has not permitted us to refuse those who came to Jurgenschmidt in search of asylum. He does not mind us treating them in accordance with the rules of our society. We cannot expel them after they went to so much trouble to come here and obtain their stamps. I repeated what Irwerman had told us about the country's founding and the contrast between divine and mortal perspectives. Everyone sighed in response. It makes the most sense for the royal family to punish those responsible for the war, Ferdinand said. Their crimes exceed Ahrensbach's jurisdiction. To prevent anyone from blaming the royals for allowing the Lanzanov invasion, we had to stress how much they had participated in the fight and make it known that they were the ones who captured the criminals. Mass executions were carried out during the purge that followed the Civil War, wiping out not just those deemed to be criminals, but also those associated with them, Sigiswald remarked. The nobles of the losing duchies will not be pleased to hear that traitors who abetted an invasion of the Royal Academy are being allowed to live. How do you intend to mitigate their outrage? This wasn't pleasant to discuss, but it needed to be done. I sat up straight and prepared to answer. Though the gods have forbidden us from executing anyone in the aftermath of this incident, I doubt that will change how the nobles feel. As the old adage goes, the law is not in heaven. To punish them severely enough to satisfy the country's obs, and to prevent them from ever being treated as nobles again, I think we should destroy their medals while they are in another duchy. So, destroy their staffs? Adolphine asked. Are the Lanzanovians registered as Jurgenschmidt nobles? I nodded. One cannot obtain a staff otherwise. To that end, Alstead registered them all as Ahrensbach nobles. By destroying their medals while they are still in the sovereignty, I could remove their noble authority without taking their lives. Would anyone be opposed to this? Nobody was. Of course, because this is the easiest way to do it. I intend to have the criminals dedicate their mana to Jurgenschmidt. Dang it. Goddamn mouse. Jurgenschmidt's various duchies, I said. Dunkelfelger and the royal family can discuss how many each duchy should receive. Lady Eglantine will make the final decision when she becomes a Zent. Sorry. By involving Dunkelfegger in the process, we could give them more authority moving forward and prevent Klassenberg from butting in. According to Ferdinand, at least, I was just reciting a script. Trollcall gave me a grave nod. Consider it done. By making the royals do all the tedious work, I could devote my attention to destroying the metals and punishing the Lanzanov. Lanzanovian soldiers who had rampaged through Ahrensbach was relieved not to have been saddled with any of the emotionally exhausting duties. We will also need to discuss how Lady Eglantine will redraw the borders after becoming the Zent, as King Trollcall and Prince Siggiswald need to be assigned duchies to rule, I said. Ferdinand formed his staff and used his mana to draw a map in the air. I gestured toward it and continued. The only land the Zent is supposed to rule is the centermost portion of the sovereignty, the Royal Academy. To minimize the burden on Lady Eglantine, we can shave away the extra territory the royal family acquired for the sake of establishing their villas. The part of Old Workstock under Ahrensbach's management, all of Old Scharfer, and a portion of the current sovereignty can be combined into a single duchy that King Trollcall will oversee. Old Trostwerk and another portion of the sovereignty can be merged for Prince Siggiswald. Ferdinand complimented my explanation by redrawing the borders as I proposed. Old Scharfer was combined with Ahrensbach's part of Old Workstock to its south. On top of that, I said, the land given to the duchies on the winning side of the Civil War needs to be properly incorporated into their territories. The Obs cannot rule them otherwise. Dunkelfegger should take this opportunity to decide what they want to do with their portion of Old Workstock. They can outright refuse it if doing so better suits their duchy's interests. I turned to Dunkelfegger's Archducal couple for their opinion. They had contributed so much to our victory that we would respect whatever decision they made. A short discussion followed, and they elected to have their border redrawn to officially include the proposed section of Old Workstock. Eglantine remarked that if Klassenberg would probably make the same call with Old Zossengass, and that was it, and that was that. As the new Zent, I wish to reward those who secured our win against the invaders, Eglantine said. Dunkelfegger, is there anything else we can give you? If you desire more land, we can make further changes to the map. The response came not from the Ob, but from Segelde. We do not need any more land than we have been given. Instead, we request more authority than Klassenberg, even after you rise to the throne. Let their rank be at least one place below ours for the entirety of your reign. Klassenberg hadn't contributed to this war in the slightest, but its influence and authority would still grow when Eglantine became the Zent. Dunkelfegger wished to prevent that. But of course, Eglantine replied with a calm smile. Obtaining the Guterscheid and taking the throne would never have been an option for me without you, Ehrenfest, and Lady Rosamund's Ahrensbach. Ob Klassenberg raised me never to let a debt go unpaid, so that should not be a problem at all. And as for you, Ehrenfest, you have no interest in receiving more land, so what can we give you? Your word that the royal family will not proceed with Rosamund's adoption to King Trollcall, Sylvester replied. It no longer makes sense, considering that one is the avatar of a goddess, and the other is soon to be an Ob. That said, we wish to keep everything we were given in return for agreeing to the adoption in the first place. In short, the adoption wouldn't happen, but Ehrenfest would get to keep the magic tools for its children, and the restriction that nobles could only marry into the duchy. I would not have been able to adopt an avatar anyway, Trollcall said, announcing that he was also content with abandoning the plan. Eglantine nodded. And what do you desire, Lady Rosamund? Your cooperation in the construction of my library city. To be more precise, once the printing industry has spread, I ask that all duchies be ordered to send copies of each new book they create to Ahrensbach. Is that all? Eglantine looked at Ferdinand with concern. It was strange that she was consulting him. She had asked me what I wanted. You have a narrow mind when it comes to books, girl. Let Ferdinand say something too. Yes, that will do. Wow, Ferdinand replied. Let us be glad she did not order the construction of a new library city equipped with a Zen teleportation circle in every single duchy. Yeah, we don't need that. As much as I still wanted to move freely between the country's libraries, I recognized that it wasn't really feasible right now. I remembered getting shouted at over the idea, and there were some things I shouldn't ask for while everyone was acknowledging me as an avatar of a goddess. As for me, Ferdinand said, I asked that Ahrensbach's name and duchy color be changed after Rosamund becomes its Ob. Your requests are acknowledged. Lady Rosamund, please put some thought into the name you choose. We cannot have two Ehrenfests. Yeah, we can't. Why can't you just combine Ehrenfest and Ahrensbach into one duchy? Why couldn't they have asked for that? I mean, they're redrawing the borders. Why not just get rid of that border? Under normal circumstances, when a foundation was stolen, the duchy would take the name of the new Ob's house. Actually makes sense, though. Because then what would they do? Because they would have to make the... Never mind. It makes more sense to not do that. The duchy would take the name of the new Ob's house. I was adopted, however, which meant we would end up with a second Ehrenfest. Eggleston was letting me come up with another name to remedy this. I wonder what I should call it. This is kind of exciting. Actually, that is a good question. What would she call it? Japan? Oh, that'd be so cool if she did. God dang. Adolphine's push. Wonder what this is about. Hold on. Let me just make sure. Okay. 20 minutes. Okay. Adolphine's push. I was gleefully considering the name of my library city when Adolphine raised a hand. Now that everyone's rewards have been decided, I request permission to speak. Granted, of course, I said. Adolphine looked at Trarqual and Siggiswald. This would ordinarily be kept within the royal family, but it must be said that I married Prince Siggiswald to connect Drwarnkle to the next Zent. By losing his claim to the throne, he might have breached our contract. He breached it, I asked. Indeed, if the prince becomes an Ob, neither my duchy nor I will gain anything from our union, thereby violating the contract we made at the time of our engagement. He is not entirely to blame, but a breach is a breach. I wish to borrow Messanora's wisdom so that no one is punished by the goddess of light. Huh? I cocked my head at her, unsure what she hoped to gain from this. Ferdinand must have detected my confusion because he gave his temples a few taps and translated. So you want to guarantee that Drwarnkle will receive the benefits of marrying a Zent, even though Prince Siggiswald is becoming an Ob. Indeed, she said with a smile, or I would ask Lady Rosemine to recognize our divorce as the one who performed our star binding. The look in her eyes reminded me of Gundalf when he was advancing his research. You may discuss the matter in our absence. Rosemine is under no obligation to make promises about a contract between your husband and you. I am aware, Adolphine replied, still smiling, but her involvement cannot be overlooked. Following the Civil War, Klassenberg and Dunkelfelder were given land to reward their involvement. This was not an option for Drwarnkle, so we were given a chance to increase our authority by sending archnobles to the sovereignty. Klassenberg and Dunkelfelder had endured many hardships trying to manage territories outside of their borders, while Drwarnkle had struggled to fill the void made by sending so many archnobles to the sovereignty. Adolphine continued, redrawing the borders will allow Klassenberg and Dunkelfelder to properly absorb the territories they manage. In turn, the sovereignty is going to shrink. What will happen to the nobles there when the Sovereign Temple moves to the Royal Academy? Klassenberg and Dunkelfelder were keeping their rewards from the Civil War, and she wanted to make sure the same was true for Drwarnkle. Ferdinand drew his eyebrows together in a frown. We plan to temporarily return all sovereign nobles not in the royal family service to their duchies during the move to the Academy and the assignment of new Obs. Once everything is... done, the duchies will send nobles as before, but Lady Eglantine and Prince Anastasius will decide which ones are accepted. From that point on, sovereign nobles will stay in the dormitories of their respective duchies. Adolphine nodded, having anticipated that answer. I thought the sovereign nobles would be sent back, considering that the Blue Priests are due to return. I do not disagree with any of these changes. It makes sense for the new Zent to choose which nobles shall work for her, and moving them into their dormitories will reduce the burden on her in many regards. But I cannot ignore their impact on Drwarnkle. We will lose not only the benefits promised to us by my contract, but also our reward for participating in the Civil War. I will need to discuss the matter with the Ob. I understand your position well, I said, unable to hold back my tongue. Lady Eglantine, King Trarqual, Prince Siggiswald, think carefully about how best to reward Drwarnkle. Rosemine, this is not a matter for you to speak on, Ferdinand interjected with a hard glare. Because of my goddess Daimana, anything I said will be interpreted as a divine order, but I didn't regret my decision. I understand that, but I empathize with Lady Adolphine's urgency and desperation. Please allow me to provide some insight. Imagine my adoption into the royal family went ahead, but Ehrenfest never received what they were promised in return. If the Zent had adopted me only to be demoted to the rank of an Ob, and the rewards promised to Ehrenfest had never materialized, I too would have been ranting about a breach of contract. It was even worse for Adolphine. Not only was her duchy being denied payment, but it would also need to bear a greater burden when assisting with the construction of the new duchies. Of course, the situations aren't exactly the same. Divorce has a tremendous impact on a woman's reputation. Lady Adolphine, I continued, your marriage was political and your concerns are valid, but would rushing into a divorce be wise? Given the impact it might have on your duchy's plans and your future, I would encourage you to give it more thought. Drwarnkle and the royal family must have both agreed that her engagement was best for the balance of power and Jurgenschmidt. They would need to be consulted before anyone took action. Naturally, the final decision will not be made here and now, but after a discussion between my parents and Drwarnkle and the royal family during the upcoming Archduke Conference. I elected to mention it because my star binding was performed using ancient methods. I thought my divorce might need to be done the same way. I don't know. Adolphine's marriage had survived an entire year, long enough for her and Prince Siggiswald to grow close, I thought, but it seemed she was already set on divorce. I guess that's, yeah, I don't blame her for not wanting to be married to this guy. I guess this is just how things are in this world. Did an arranged marriage need to end if the deal it was founded on fell through? The couple had wed over a year ago, so I thought it would be better for them to keep supporting each other. It wasn't my marriage, though, nor was it my decision to make. Adolphine understood her situation more than I ever would. In just a moment, I said, I can check. I made my book of Messinora and searched for any information I could find about divorces. Sigiswald spoke with Adolphine in the background. Based on his remarks, he didn't want them to separate. Adolphine, have we not already spent an entire year together? The first prince asked. I did not think you were so obsessed with obtaining royal status. He was trying to chastise her for being so heartless, but she merely blinked in confusion. Are you really so taken aback? Our union was political from the outset, arranged with the understanding that I would marry the country's next ent. Obtaining royal status was always my focus. We were never even a couple. We gained the blessings of the supreme gods, did we not? And what will your future hold if you divorce me so soon after coming of age? You might not find anyone else and end up stuck in Drawanko for the rest of your life. I mean, how is that a bad thing, though? That might not be a bad thing for her. Adolphine looked sincerely troubled. She made to respond, then paused, though they weren't on the same page. Their marriage and its problems weren't to be discussed in this public arena. She must have given up on trying to explain her perspective because she merely smiled and said, Prince Sigiswald, anyone will grasp at Garner's threads if she dangled them so clearly. Not even my best scale could resist their allure. She wouldn't let this opportunity to divorce him slip through her fingers. I wonder how they ended up like this. Like, ouch. Adolphine said they weren't even a couple. As much as I wanted to find out, this was a matter between their houses. It seemed rude of me to pry. Yeah, I would be curious too. I gazed up from my book of Messinora to address them. Lady Adolphine, according to my research, the traditional means of divorce should still work for you. Please note, however, that you will find it harder to obtain the Supreme God's blessings. A normal prayer would earn them only half as much blessings as usual. I thank you ever so much for your time, Lady Rosemine. Your insight is most useful. Adolphine knew the supreme gods would grant her less favor if she divorced the first prince, but that didn't change the resolve in her amber eyes. She got Eglantine and Troracle to promise they would set up a meeting with Jaronko to discuss the matter. It was admirable, really. A namestone should take no more than 3 days to complete, Ferdinand said, returning our focus to Eglantine. Thus, I would advise holding the transference ceremony and her debut as a Zent 4 days from now. Like other rituals, they can begin at third bell. 4 days from now, Eglantine cried. Her shock was a little unwarranted, if you ask me. 4 days was plenty of time. In fact, coming from Ferdinand, it could even be considered generous. Namestones are trivial to make, I said, and procuring the ingredients should not be a problem for a royal. The prayer and method to regenerate gathering spots were taught during the last Archduke conference, so you need not even worry about scarcity. 2 days would be more than enough time. Ferdinand nodded in agreement. 2 days was my original plan, but you would not be ready for the ceremonies, especially as you need to practice your whirling. Ah, I get it now, I muttered. 3 or 4 days of practice wouldn't have been enough when people are comparing me to Lady Eglantine, but even then. Though I was finally able to whirl without falling over, I still occasionally wavered. Having to keep up with Eglantine of all people was going to be tough. I tried asking for more time to practice, but Ferdinand refused. You will need to make do, he said. If we are not careful, we will not make it back to Arensbach in time for spring prayer. This year's harvest will cast off. This year's ceremony, especially this year's harvest will catastrophically fail. Oh, right. But what about our clothes? Ferdinand cocked an eyebrow at me like I just asked the dumbest question in the world. Lady Eglantine has her clothes from her coming of age and star binding, and as your role is to present her with the Gretchenschat, you can wear your ceremonial high bishop robes. Okay. I was okay with that. I was used to wearing them, and then we wouldn't need to worry about them being ready in time. Laislin and the others could fetch them from Arensbach for me. Lady Eglantine, Ferdinand said, please wear face-stone shoes for your whirling. The pillars of light will not form without mana. Should I wear some too, I asked. There is enough divine mana spilling out of you that the material of your shoes will not matter. Do as you please. Huh? Am I leaking that much mana? It hadn't even occurred to me, but there must have been a lot. My current state was so abnormal that even pillars of light will form on their own. To provide extra support, Hartmut shall participate as the high priest, Ferdinand continued. Shall we let the royal family borrow him from tomorrow until the day of the ceremony so he can educate Prince Anastasius? Hold on, Sylvester yelped. You plan to have Hartmut educate Prince Anastasius? That meant putting an Ehrenfest archnoble above a member of royalty. Ferdinand glanced at his brother then at Anastasius. Hartmut knows more about religious ceremonies than anyone else we can spare. Is your knowledge not superior? Anastasius asked. He probably thought it would be easier to learn from an archduke candidate than an archnoble from another duchy, but Ferdinand shot down the idea at once. It is, but I do not have time to teach you. I must instruct the nobles of Arensbach in Rosemine's stead. If you are displeased with needing Hartmut's assistance, or think you can prepare the transference ceremony at such short notice without him, I will not object. You can make do with those of the Sovereign Temple. According to Ferdinand, the sovereign high bishop was basically on the verge of death. His blue priest wouldn't be of much use to the second prince when the temple was in such a sorry state, making Hartmut's assistance crucial. Ferdinand put the royals in his debt while simultaneously blocking their escape route. How evil. Still, I couldn't just sit here in silence. He was lending the royals one of my retainers. Prince Anastasius, if you want Hartmut for the next 4 days, I will need to charge the royal family for his services. Sylvester and the others were stunned, but I refused to budge. Not even the Lord of Evil could suppress my merchant spirit. On another note, I said, I promised Lady Hannelore that I would invite her to wash my hand over the Grüterscheid. Dunkelfelder, please be sure to bring her with you to the ceremonies. As you wish, the replied. I was prepared to move on, but Charlcourt raised a hand in search of permission to speak. Lady Rosamine, I have a suggestion. Yes? Could we invite all the Archduke candidates currently enrolled at the Academy? This seems like a perfect opportunity for those closest to becoming the next generation's Zent, to learn the importance of religious ceremonies and the Grüterscheid's divinity. Going forward, students would need to pray to the gods and work to acquire as many elements as they could. Charlcourt thought that a demonstration of the path to the throne would play a crucial role in reforming the country's temples. Sylvester contemplated the idea, then nodded. I agree with King Charlcourt. However, I propose that we invite all baptized Archduke candidates, even those who are still too young to attend the Academy. I imagine Melchior, the current High Bishop in Ehrenfest, would also appreciate the chance to see Rosamine's ceremonies. A gentle smile spread across my face. I would need to put all into serving as a good example for Melchior. Given the brooches and such will need to be prepared for those who have yet to enroll, we can let the obs of each duchy decide whether they wish to bring their 7, 8, and 9-year-old, I said. I should note, however, that I think children have much to gain from experiencing religious ceremonies at a young age. And what will you do if problems arise because of children that young participating? Ferdinand asked me with his usual glare. I shrugged back in Ehrenfest. Recently baptized apprentice blues watched our ceremonies without issue. I see no reason to worry about well-bred Archduke candidates. Even if something does happen, the blame will rest with the parents. The ob gets to decide who participates after all. A misbehaving child spoke to a poor education, so the obs would only bring those they could trust, not to shame them. In short, there was basically zero risk of us encountering any issues. As far as rituals go, I said, the transference ceremony is irregular, not like the yearly star binding and such. It will serve no purpose for future generations who obtain their own books of Messinora, because it should never need to be repeated. I see nothing wrong with letting the younger children participate just this once. Ferdinand rapped a finger on his temple. I wonder, did you only make this grand, admirable gesture because you wanted to impress your younger siblings? Well spotted, Ferdinand! Guess I can't pull the wool over your eyes! Once we'd agreed to let all the baptized Archduke candidates participate, we went over the details of the ceremonies before bringing our meeting to a close. Okay, hold on. Okay, gonna keep going. Eglantine's name swearing. Ferdinand, Sylvester, Florentia, and I went to the dormitory's common room to begin instructing our retinues. My retainers all gathered around me and waited their next orders. Hartmut, I said, please help prepare for the Grüterscheid transference ceremony in 4 days' time and serve as its high priest. You will need to hurry back to Ehrenfest Temple to fetch your ceremonial robes, among other things. From tomorrow onward, I must also ask that you teach Prince Anastasius as much as you can about the ceremonies. Hartmut accepted, radiating motivation. I shall ensure the divine avatar-led transference ceremony is performed to perfection. I went on to ask that the adult guard knights who have participated in the Academy's ceremonies disguised as blue priests and shrine maidens make their own preparations as well. There is no reason we cannot serve as your guard during the ceremony, Lenore declared, but if you would permit me to ask, who is receiving the Grüterscheid? Lady Eglantine, I replied. In truth, I wished to assign Hartmut to her before she took over as a sovereign high bishop. She had other matters to prioritize, though, so Prince Anastasius is providing his support instead. I was explaining the gist of our meeting when Ferdinand came over and gave Hartmut some notes. These detail the ceremonies in full, he said. If you must travel between Ehrenfest and the Sovereign Temple on top of assisting Prince Anastasius, then leave the key Dang it. Goddamn. We discussed with Rosamine. Understood. Hartmut removed the Bible's key from his neck and put it around mine instead. He asked Ferdinand a few questions about the notes he had just received, then turned on his heel and started carrying out his orders. We too shall return to Ehrenfest. Judith, Lorenz, Matthias, the rest is up to you. Understood. Cornelius, Lenore, Angelica, and Daniel followed Hartmut out of the common room. I watched them go, then summoned Gracia and Laisletta. Sorry to make you go back and forth like this, but I must ask you to retrieve my ceremonial robes and hair ornaments from Ahrensbach. I will use space stones for my shoes, so you need not worry about those. As you wish, my lady. The pair departed for the villa. Riarda and the others were at the dormitory today, so there wouldn't be a lack of attendants to look after me. Justice hurried out as well, having apparently received orders of some kind from Ferdinand. Feline, take this to Ehrenfest and ask the Rosemine workshop to start printing copies, I said, handing her the manuscript we would distribute once the new Zent was crowned. The Ob has given his permission, but be sure to run it past Mother as well. 25 copies should do. We intend to give them out during the Archduke Conference, so they need to be prioritized above all else. Mother and Miriella can split the work between themselves and even distribute some to Haas's monastery. Yes, my lady. Roderick watched nervously as Feline left, clutching the manuscript. Lady Rosamond, what about the Dunkelfelger story I'm writing? Ob Dunkelfelger will not take the throne, so your time constraints have been removed. Do keep at it, though. He was so excited about your work that he mentioned buying up all the copies. Roderick had been pulling his hair out over his 5-day deadline, so he was understandably relieved to have more time. I felt bad about making such an unreasonable request in the first place, but he was the only one capable of completing it. I shall take a short moment to embrace the calm, then get back to work, he said. But your panic added such wonderful tension to your writing, Judith remarked, giggling. She had agreed to have Roderick by answering his questions about Ditter, so she had seen his agony firsthand. Well, don't let her help go to waste, Lorenz added with a chuckle, having also witnessed the young scholar's anguish. Finish the job. Once I'd instructed all my retainers, Ferdinand came over and took the seat beside me. Rosamond, what do you intend to do about Letizia? If we follow Arensbach's tradition, she will need to be devoted to an archnoble when you become the Ob. She lacks parents, however, and would thus need to live in the orphanage. Your answer will decide whether she can attend the transference ceremony. Could we return her to Jerwanko? I think she'd rather live with her parents than stay in Arensbach. Perhaps if you can find a way to nullify her contract, her adoptive parents both climb the towering stairway, but that is assuming Jerwanko even wants her back. It might not welcome the return of an Archduke candidate who caused problems elsewhere, but she's their daughter, I said. Surely they wouldn't refuse her. Yes, I doubted you would understand, Ferdinand muttered, crossing his arms. Letizia was baptized as an Arensbach Archduke candidate. Even if her parents welcome her with open arms, the final decision rests with Ob Jerwanko. In light of recent events, I doubt any ruler would accept a member of Arensbach's former archducal family. Maybe for the sake of securing a connection to you, but in that case, she would only be a source of trouble for us going forward. To my surprise, Ferdinand actually seemed to be worried about Letizia. Do you believe it best for her to stay in my new duchy? As an Archduke candidate, I asked. If you would rather keep your distance from her, we can house her somewhere remote. Let me put your needs first. As much as I thought Letizia was cute, her actions had put Ferdinand on the brink of death. Coupled with the fact that she had escaped the war physically unharmed, it made sense that she was lower on my list of priorities. First, there's something I wish to confirm, Ferdinand said. You intend to raise the children of those the Lanzanovians murdered in the orphanage, correct? I am including Alsted's daughter. Oh yeah, because I'm guessing they're going to die too. Yes, those children did no wrong. Like an Ehrenfest, I plan to send the kids of assailants and victims alike to the orphanage. Then, when I took over as the Ob, I would voluntarily serve as their guardian. Ferdinand nodded carefully. In that case, entrust Letizia to me. I must have let my thoughts show on my face because he cocked an eyebrow at me and slowly added, there is no need to look so concerned. I will not do anything to greatly displease you. Even if something were to happen, you would need only order me to stop. Yeah, because she still has his name stone. From there, Ferdinand stood up and started inspecting my health. He touched my neck, then frowned. You have a slight fever. Have you built up too much mana? Perhaps I did get a tad emotional. A tad? A sardonic grin crossed his face before he instructed Brunhilde to prepare another sheet of silver cloth, which he then started wrapping around me. Ferdinand, what in the world are you doing? I asked. You should spend the coming days in your room. It would do you well to let out some of your mana. I also wish to see how much divine power is lost in the process. Excuse me, what? The silver cloth soon covered my eyes, plunging me into darkness. Someone picked me up, causing me to yelp, and Ferdinand instructed my name-sworn guard knights to accompany him. I'm guessing he picked her up. Wait, hold on. How is he going to go to her room considering he's a guy? Guys aren't allowed up there, right? Right? Lord Ferdinand, her name-sworn knights are all men, Clarissa called. Let me come with you. But you're a scholar, Clarissa. She's a scholar of the sword. Judith cried out in turn. Scholars may come as long as they are name-sworn, Ferdinand replied at length. Ah, but I'm a guard knight, Judith exclaimed. How come I'm always being left out? Maybe I should give my name to... Don't do that just so you could accompany her. Good God. I didn't want her to make any hasty decisions. Ferdinand called out our name-sworn retainers only when he was going somewhere or doing something that had to be kept secret, and the pressure that was put on them couldn't have been more pleasant. I didn't want Judith to do anything that might make her bright smile fade away forever. Though I couldn't see, I could feel that I was being taken somewhere. It wasn't long before my expert detection skills told me we had arrived at the library. Schwartz and Weiss had just welcomed me. Ferdinand asked Solange to clear the building before taking me upstairs. We are here, Rosamund, he eventually said. Can you stand? Yes, I'll manage. I mean, as long as she's on her 2 feet, yeah. My body tilted and my feet soon touched the floor. The silver cloth was moved to reveal that we were indeed in the library, standing before the statue of Mestinora. There was only one place to go from here. Ferdinand, don't tell me you're taking her to the Garden of Beginnings! Where Wehrman is! Oh, this is going to be interesting. After ordering the knights to turn around, he handed me a sound blocker and nodded. I was going to die in the Foundation myself, but the drastic change in your mana means I am now recognized as Ob Ehrensbach. The Foundation refused me. Only remaining option is for you to attempt it with your goddess-dyed mana. Its capacity is enormous enough for you to let it out as much as you need to. In essence, we were killing two birds with one stone. Dying the Foundation enough that a Wehrman would stop complaining while also allowing me to release my excess mana. Is this why Hartmut gave me the Bible's key, I asked. I was also apprehensive about him wearing it around Prince Anastasius. The upcoming ceremonies will paint you as the divine avatar of even higher status than the royals. Who knows what danger might follow? Ferdinand opened the cover of the book in Messnora's hands to reveal a keyhole, then encouraged me to channel mana into the Foundation. Release only as much as you need to, he said. If you go too far, Lady Eglantine might have a hard time dying over it. True! That is true. I slotted the key into Messnora's book, causing the statue to move aside without a sound. The descending staircase behind it led to an iridescent barrier, which led me to a room just like the one containing Ehrensbach's Foundation. This place is huge, I mused aloud. Guess that shouldn't surprise me when I'm looking for the country's foundation. And, wow, it really is almost empty. No wonder Wehrman is panicking. I spent a moment admiring the Foundation, which was several times larger than those found in the duchies, then carefully started pouring my mana into it. Exercising caution was more important than ever. I needed to use rejuvenation potions when dying Ehrensbach's Foundation, and collapsing here would cause all sorts of problems. By the time I'd released enough mana to feel comfortable, the Foundation wasn't even 1/6 full. How much is 1/6? I don't even know. It was enough to bring the country back from the verge of collapse, if nothing else. I gazed upon the 7 colored face stones swirling through the air and saw that they were spinning faster now. Well, that should do it, I declared once my mana was slightly more than halfway depleted. I returned to the others and said, sorry for the wait, everyone. No sooner had I locked Messnora's book than the statue moved back to its original place. Ferdinand waited for it to settle, then instructed my namesworn, who covered me in silver cloth once again, and returned me to the dormitory. Though I could spend the next 4 days at my leisure, I wouldn't be allowed to read in the library. Of course. Relieved of my excess mana, I got some rest, practiced whirling, and participated in meetings about the upcoming ceremonies. Ferdinand said my whirling was sure to be sufficient. Not bad, Rosamund, not bad at all. A day seemed to pass in the blink of an eye, and it soon came time for the ceremonies. My female retainers inspected me in my ceremonial high bishop robes and sighed in awe. Okay, we're getting to the ceremonies, everybody! This is gonna be good! I thought my appearance was the same as always, but then again, I couldn't see my divine power. Lady Rosamund, please hold out your arms so we can put these on for you, Bertilde said, approaching with a box of charms and ornaments. I did as instructed and waited patiently as Lazletta slowly adorned me. Never before have I seen charms with this many face stones, I remarked. Lazletta nodded. Lord Ferdinand made them specially so they would not obstruct your whirling. They reminded me of gloves, except they were woven out of tiny but slender chains that reached from the back of my hand to my upper arm. Rainbow face stones shaved down into beads glittered across them, each with a protective magic circle. I said, good lord, how are you making these, dude? And where did you get all the rainbow face stones anyway? Was he making them instead of sleeping? I muttered, my lips pursed. He promised to get some rest, but these are too complex to have been made in 3 to 4 days. Yeah, you need to get him another blessing. As soon as the ceremonies were over, I would need to encourage him with one of Schlaftrum's blessings. Clarissa giggled. He simply wishes to be prepared. In his words, these precautions are necessary to prevent the goddess from returning to your body as you whirl. Dang it. I would have loved to witness something so divine, but as you lose memories in the process, I shall make do without it. It never even crossed my mind that my dedication whirl might summon Messinora again. Uh-oh, that wouldn't be bad. They're bad. I stroked the light chains covering my arms while thinking about my lost memories. Maybe these charms would protect my thoughts even if the goddess returned. I hope so. Matthias, this is Lenore. Is our path secure? The Ordnance shot out of the room, then returned with an all clear from Matthias. Today's plan was to leave through our tea party room and use the back pass meant for royals to reach a waiting room near the auditorium. To my knowledge, it was the same room that royals themselves had once used. Judith, Lorenz, and Matthias had gone ahead to make sure the coast was clear. Lady Rosamund, since you are ready, Angelica, who was wearing the robes of a blue shrine maiden, covered me with silver cloth and picked me up for the umpteenth time. Hartmut put a lot of work into today's ceremonies, Clarissa announced, sticking out her chest. He mobilized Prince Anastasius, the sovereign nobles, and everyone in the sovereign temple to make sure things were ready for you. She was trying to impress me, I gathered, but I was more worried about everyone forced to endure his enthusiasm. I know. Imagine listening to all that for friggin' 4 days. We soon arrived at the waiting room where Hartman was ready to receive us. Eglantine and Anastasius appeared not long after. They inhaled sharply upon seeing me, then knelt to indicate my superior status. I'd seen the clothes they were wearing before. Lady Rosamund, Eglantine said, I was dressed in these same clothes when you blessed me at the start of my graduation ceremony. I hope to receive your blessing once again and earn the notice of the gods by wearing the divine color of my birth season. I was admiring her outfit, feeling a little nostalgic when Hartman approached us. Cornelius, leave Matthias and Lorenz here and go to the auditorium. I want you and Lady Rosamund's other guard knights to carry out the final checks. The royals had said there weren't any issues, but maybe some of Robert's co-conspirators remained in the Sovereign Knights Order. At the very least, my knights were skeptical of anything the royal family told us. It probably didn't help that Ferdinand was going to such great lengths with my charms and the precautions. Cornelius, who was clad in the robes of a blue priest, responded to Hartman with a stern nod before heading to the auditorium with the others. Anastasius turned to his own knights and made the same request. Go to the auditorium and perform final checks of your own. Leave only as many knights as I need to protect me. The transference ceremony must be completed without incident. Not once in Jürgen Schmidt's long history had an Ehrenfest Archduke serving as Messenor's divine avatar bestowed the Gutscheid upon a new Zent. The nobles we'd invited were being kept in the dark, as many wanted to know why Troraquil wasn't receiving the Gutscheid and why it was being bestowed upon Eglantine when there are other people more deserving. Those directly involved with the transference come to the back of the room, Hartman said. The front portion was a waiting area for the royal retainers, whereas the back was for the royals themselves. I moved to the back of the room with Hartman, Eglantine, and Anastasius, who was serving as his wife's escort. Hartman then addressed us again. Let us perform the name swearing before the transference ceremony. Prince Anastasius and I shall observe. Right. Hartman and Anastasius watched as Eglantine produced a small white box, which she held up to me. For a moment my eyes were drawn to her magnificent golden tresses, but I quickly corrected my focus. Inside the box was a multicolored face stone of every element, and inside that Eglantine's name was written in gold letters. I don't feel great about this, but oh well. I'd said it before and I would say it again. Holding another person's life in your hands was absolutely terrifying. But if Ash's concerns about us corrupting the meaning of name swearing arose in the back of my mind. Still, Ferdinand thought this was necessary to ensure Eglantine wouldn't be hurt by my goddess-dyed mana during the ceremony and to guarantee her silence on various matters. It was also a good way to prevent her from one day trying to abuse her power and give Ferdinand more unreasonable commands. She was the kind of person who would do anything to protect Jürgen Schmidt's peace. I don't plan to give her any orders, I'm just playing it safe. Anastasius glanced between us with an indescribable look on his face. He wanted to stop this, but knew there was nothing he could do. I imagined he had said everything he could to dissuade Eglantine while she was making her namestone. Probably because he doesn't want my mana surrounding his wife. I bore the mark of Abiglaive, so my mana will probably return to being like Ferdinand's when the ceremony is concluded, and the divinity faded away. Anastasius would find that disgusting beyond words, but he would need to learn to deal with it. Unless Abiglaive marked people in my situation don't end up having divine mana forever, do they? That was a scary thought, but I tried not to dwell on it. Ferdinand had assured me the divine mana would disappear eventually. I wanted to believe he was right. I hope so. May we begin, Lady Rosamund? Yes. Eglantine met my eye, then took a deep breath and bowed her head. I, Eglantine, swear to become a loyal vassal of Lady Rosamund, the divine avatar of Mestinora, the goddess of wisdom, and to devote my life to Jürgen Schmidt as its new Zent. As proof of my resolve, I give you my name and implore you to keep it with you at all times. In return, I ask that you grant me the Gutscheid and show me how to lead Jürgen Schmidt to a better future. Her delicate hand slowly held at the box containing her namestone. I accepted it and started filling it with my mana. Eglantine clutched her chest and let out a small, pained groan, feeling the resistance. Anastasius cried out and moved to rush to her side, but Hartman caught him by the hand. You must not interfere, Prince Anastasius. The ritual is not over until the stone has been completely enveloped. Based on Lady Rosamund's past name swearings, it seems the process is more painful when there's a greater gap between the participants' mana capacities. Lady Eglantine is suffering the least of everyone who has given their name. I slammed my mana into Eglantine's stone and ended the name swearing then and there. She let out a pained sigh in response. Are you well, Lady Eglantine? I asked. Yes, I am fine now, she replied with a smile like a blossoming flower. I thank you ever so much for your consideration. I put her name onto the cage on my hip, then sat down and gestured for everyone else to join me. Third bell rang as we went over the procedure for the upcoming ceremony. Oh my god, I'm not even halfway there yet. Holy shit. Blessings from the gods. Everyone has arrived, Ferdinand announced as he entered the waiting room. He instructed us on what to do, then held out a hand to me, acting as my escort. Take your places by the door. If you will excuse me, Hartman said. He agreed to perform the ceremony as the high priest, so he entered the auditorium ahead of us, taking the door for dang it. Professors that led directly to the stage. The rest of us would use the main entrance. Hartman's departure left us with Eglantine and Anastasius, who would also enter ahead of us. 2 of their guard knights stood in front of the doors, ready to open them whenever they received the signal. Ferdinand and I moved aside so that we wouldn't be seen when our new Zent made her grand appearance. Now behold, the Zent chosen by the divine avatar of Messinora, Lady Eglantine. As doors opened, Eglantine and Anastasius glanced over at me. I nodded at them in response. Dang it. We had agreed that I would recreate the blessing from their graduation ceremony to make it seem like the gods were smiling down on them. Ferdinand grimaced at the reminder. He had said the Grutushite alone would suffice, but ultimately conceded the point. Our exchange was fresh in my memory. We need the country's nobles to fully accept Lady Eglantine as the new Zent. Otherwise, I won't be able to focus on my library study. That's your priority? What else would it be? Nothing, I suppose. If you'd rather not get even more involved with the royal family, a single blessing will serve your purpose. It wasn't the most impressive victory, but I secured permission nonetheless. I channeled my mana into my ring as soon as the door to the auditorium closed. Lady Eglantine, Prince Anastasius, the road ahead won't be easy, but I wish you the best of luck. You have my support. I made sure not to put much feeling into the blessing. It was merely a gesture like greeting an acquaintance. I nodded when I was done, satisfied with my work, only for Ferdinand to pinch his forehead and deeply furrow his brow. That was the worst case scenario, he said. Wait, what? Are you truly that oblivious? The divine power swirling around you is intensifying. Well, she can't really see it, so how was she supposed to know that? I couldn't see why Ferdinand was so troubled. The quick glance down at my hands revealed nothing out of the ordinary. Still, the situation must have been bad. He crossed his arms while looking from me to the auditorium and to the ceiling. The crease in his brow deepened and he started tapping his temples. What should we do, I asked. The real couple has already entered the auditorium. Dang it. And the ceremony is underway. There is nothing we can do but proceed as normal. Are you sure? I mean, look, I wasn't aware of my extra divine power, but the face stones decorating my arms had started to shine, a clear indication that things were dire. We expected something strange to occur during the ceremony, but before? Ferdinand mused. You really are impossible to predict. He clucked and searched through the rejuvenation potions and magic tools he had on hand. I noticed a number of rather violent-seeming implements hidden among them. You seem better equipped for a battle than a ceremony, I observed. Anytime you were involved, I seldom know what to prepare for. True. You never know what's going to happen with her. I can understand the rejuvenation potions. I've needed them for ceremonies in the past, but explosives? I pursed my lips at him. It's better to be prepared than not. Ferdinand scoffed. He can always put those up if he doesn't use them. Now, should you not be acting more like the avatar of a goddess, you are about to be summoned. I was partway through being lectured on the best ways to exude divinity when the doors to the auditorium opened again. Hartman made his declaration from within. Now behold, Lady Rosebud, divine avatar of Messinora, the goddess of wisdom. Well, here's hoping I look the part. Ferdinand and Hartman were exceptionally thorough, so there was nothing to worry about, assuming we didn't make any major mistakes. I took a slow breath to steady my nerves, then placed my hand over Ferdinand's. Oh wow, I'm sparkling. My divine power must have been swelling through his entire lecture. The face stones and charms covering my arms were making their presence known, shining so brightly they made my eyes sting. I raised my chin in an attempt to keep them out of sight, trying to avoid making eye contact with Ferdinand at the same time. He was looking straight ahead, but his polite smile chastised me for having unleashed an extraneous blessing in the first place. I gave the blessing, sure, but this isn't my fault. It's all on the goddess. According to Ferdinand, channeling mana to the foundation had reduced my divine power. Devoting a ton of mana while dedication whirling would most likely cause my shining to fade. Stay strong, Rosemine. Hold out just a little while longer. We shall provide more information during the upcoming Archduke Conference, Hartman informed the auditorium. On this momentous occasion, the long-absent Grutushite shall return. I ascended the whirling stage of Ferdinand, and at once the selection circle materialized underneath me. Oh, come on! What now? Under normal circumstances, one had to whirl to make the circle appear. If the severity of my mana leak hadn't been obvious to me before, it certainly was now. No wonder Ferdinand grimaced and tapped a frustrated digit against his temple. This was so extreme that even I was taken aback. On the bright side, I guess Ferdinand can leave out the part of his speech explaining that the magic circle will arise once we start whirling. I waited patiently while Ferdinand gave his lecture on religious ceremonies in the magic circle. We had originally agreed that I would give the explanation, but now I was being made to keep silent so as not to lessen the divinity of my image. It was the right decision, but a mean one nonetheless. His speech complete, Ferdinand spoke in a low voice that reached my ears and mine alone. Unleash as much divine power as you can while you whirl. Then he descended the stage. The musicians beneath me strummed their instruments, which told me it was time to start. Ferdinand was now among the musicians when he would play for the gods, before using Verbergen's charms to ascend the altar with me. His decision to perform had seemed out of character for him, especially when I thought back to his insolence in the Garden of Beginnings, but he had quickly set me right. It was one thing to oppose Ewerman, who no longer had the power of a god, but he couldn't risk disrespecting the actual gods responsible for his divine protections. Oh, is this the sound check over? The musicians had stopped playing. They must have been ready. I took a slow breath and began. I am one who offers prayer and gratitude to the gods who have created the world. To stop the audience from doubting my status as divine avatar, I needed to put my own into my world. Egotine will perform the same ceremony right after me. If nothing else, my pillar of light needs to be bigger than hers. I doubted my worldling was better than Egotine's, but that was fine. I could compensate in other ways. I drew as much attention as I could to my status as a divine avatar, adding my natural mana to the goddess dyed mana flowing through me. The pillar of light slowly grew as a result. Perfect, just like that. Goddamn. Ah! What's wrong with my mouse? Goddamn. There! Jesus Christ. As I spun, I saw the statues of the gods move, opening a path. Egotine was waiting before the altar and would step forth to whirl once the path was fully open, ensuring that nobody in the audience would notice if she couldn't erect high enough pillars. The knowledge that everything was going according to plan brought me some comfort, allowing me to focus on my dance. My luminous face stones obscured my view, so I didn't even notice the waves of mana radiating from the stage and ascending the altar or the fact that the statues had started to shine. I simply finished my whirl and then returned to kneeling. Praise be to the gods, I said. In an instant, I was swallowed up by the most dazzling light. I squeezed my eyes shut on instinct and suddenly felt weightless. Then a voice reached my ears. So you have returned. You came second, mine. What? Excuse me? Again? Wait, who's first? Was that Ferdinand? I sheepishly opened my eyes and gazed upward. We had planned for me to bring Egotine and the unseen Ferdinand to the Garden of Beginnings once the whirling was complete, but here I was facing Ewerman alone. Hold on. We didn't account for this. The blood drained from my face. I frantically looked around, searching for an exit, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Even the entrance behind the statues was shut for some reason. Is Lady Egotine gonna be okay? Can she reopen it on her own? Ferdinand, what's the plan? As far as I was aware, he hadn't expected me to teleport to the Garden of Beginnings immediately after finishing my dedication whirl. Are you listening, mine? Ewerman asked. No, sorry, this happened so suddenly that I was lost in thought. Could you repeat yourself? I said you came in second in the race. Second? Do you mean Gervasio got here before me? I exclaimed, my eyes wide in terror. Ferdinand must have made a mistake. Maybe he destroyed the wrong medal, although allowing Gervasio to escape the country gate? Ewerman shook his head. Would that were the case, but no. Tarza has disappeared. I do not know where he is. Maybe he wasn't able to track Gervasio now that the man's medal was destroyed, or maybe Gervasio had gone somewhere else? Does that mean Ferdinand came first then? Yes, the coward who attacked Tarza to obstruct him returned to me before you. Wait, Ferdinand attacked Gervasio? This is the first I've heard about that. He must have traveled all over while he was holed up in the Arifest dormitory. I didn't know which route he had taken to reach Ewerman, but it didn't really matter. Time hadn't been of the essence. Look, Ewerman said. His eyes were still closed, but he had indicated a direction with a subtle turn of his head. Upon his return, Quinta declared his victory, and then withdrew without asking for the path to the Foundation. He even left something behind. Surely he does not consider this garden a storage room of some kind. I turned to see something wrapped in silver cloth and tied with magic rope, the former to prevent mana from seeping out, the latter to keep anyone from touching it. I recognized it almost immediately. That's the magic tool Grudgeshite we were going to give Lady Egotine. I'd pleaded with Ferdinand to let me see under the cloth, but he'd refused. My goddess dyed mana would have overwhelmed the tool and forced him to remake it from scratch. He'd taken it here to the Garden of Beginnings and used this opportunity to announce his victory. Well, that shouldn't surprise me. You came here later than the insolent Quinta, but you were first to reach the Foundation, Ewerman explained. Its mana has increased, though it has yet to be dyed completely. My congratulations on defeating the coward. Ferdinand wanted me to supply the Foundation before him, but thanks. I wasn't going to correct Ewerman. Far be it from me to tear down his praise, but my victory against Ferdinand wasn't at all deserved. I'd only supplied the Foundation as a means of releasing my excess mana, and so Ferdinand could see whether it changed the divine power within me. Moreover, the country gates are almost entirely dyed with your mana. I acknowledge your triumph, and so I'll make you the next Zent. No, we do not need that. No, I am not the Zent. I acknowledge your triumphs, shall make you the next Zent, not Quinta. No, this is getting a little out of hand. I didn't want to become the Zent out of nowhere. The role didn't appeal to me. I was already in the process of granting Egotine the Grudgeshite as a divine avatar of Messinora. Not to mention, Ferdinand will be furious if my actions undid all his hard work. Mine, finish supplying the Foundation before Quinta. It seems wrong to make me the Zent. Ferdinand won the race, didn't he? And there are plans in place to make me Ob Ehrensbach. Ewerman's decision undermined the whole point of our race. But he was unperturbed. You filled the Foundation with mana, yes, but only because And most of all, I dislike the insolent man. I would rather anyone else become this. We're in the process of that, you idiot! So it was a matter of personal preference. I doubted there was much I could say to change Werman's mind, especially when he had so many reasons to hate Ferdinand. I understand, I said. Ferdinand was anything but courteous with you, but he also won the race. So I would argue that we should do as he says. Passing him over would mean casting aside the reason we'd competed in the first place. Besides, honoring the results would guarantee Ferdinand the throne. And Werman would still get his way in the end. Quinta must die at the Foundation before he can be freed. Huh? Freed from what? Such was our agreement. He has yet to finish, so act quickly. Die on the Foundation before Quinta steals it from you. Could you maybe not speak like it's already set in stone? Fully dying the Foundation in my current state would make it so much harder for Eglantine to die as an innocent. Not to mention, I wanted to save my mana for Aaron's box, spring prayer, and an end to account. We were all working so hard to put Eglantine on the throne, so I refused to budge no matter how strongly the former god felt. I desperately searched for the right words to convince Werman. Did they even exist? How was I to convince someone whose actions were founded in the realm of the gods? Your mana alone will not be enough, he continued, more or less ignoring me. Mestinora shall provide your aid and grant you yet more of her inexhaustible power. She would make use of your body until the Foundation. No! 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 Ever think to maybe ask her, does she want this? Or maybe if they got some kind of plan in place? Hello? Mind? Say something? Light rained down on me before I could even respond. Okay. The face stones covering my body began to spark as if resisting Mestinora's descent. Eep! My charms from Ferdinand activated on their own, and it was then that I realized the gravity of the situation. Rather than seeking my consent, Mestinora was outright attempting to steal my body. Goosebumps rose all over my arms. Am I about to lose even more of my memories? No, I won't give up my body, I cried, resisting the presence trying to enter me. I crossed both my arms in front of my chest and channeled mana into my face stones. I refused to give up more of my memories. Some things were too important for compromise. I also promised Ferdinand that I wouldn't carelessly send Ren to my body again. He still refused to tell me what Mestinora had done the last time she'd taken control of me, and I thought of what the goddess might do if she descended again, turned my stomach. I don't want to worry or hurt him. I focused on rejecting the presence of the light ceased raining down on me, thank God. Irwin began to radiate an overwhelming amount of power in response. He would take up arms against us. I'm not trying to fight you. It's just, when Mestinora used my body before, it cost me so many of my most precious memories. Even now, they haven't returned. I don't want to lose anything else that matters to me. I wouldn't have minded dying in the Foundation temporarily, despite the problems Eglantine and Arensbach would face, but I absolutely refuse to lend my body to the goddess. Your only concern is your memories, and I shall call upon the aid of the other god. Oh, no! How can they... Thou hast my blessing, Sorama said, waving a hand, to receive this power to supply the Foundation. No! Good God, do they not listen here? Ferdinand, get your butt there quick! Receive this power to supply the Foundation. Light beams of various colors descended on me all at once, and the divine power of their elements coursing through me, clashing with Messinora's influence. Eek! Goosebumps rose spread from my arms to the rest of my body. This clash of mana made my stomach churn. It felt like tendrils too slender to be seen were wriggling their way into the pores of my skin. That's freaky! It was unlike any blessing I'd ever received. Rather than working together, the god's divine power fought for dominance inside of me. I was rocked with pain as the mana inside me continued to rebound. Parts of me felt hundreds of small twinges like they had electricity coursing through them. Other parts were throbbing and numb. So intense was the agony in some areas that I genuinely wondered if my bones had snapped. My head, neck, back, stomach, arms, legs, everything hurt, and it was all I could do to stop from crying out. Now go forth and die the Foundation, Werman said. Mine? The pain was too much. I crumbled to the ground and scraped. It hurts. I can't. I couldn't even sit. Mestinora had died on mana while I was unconscious, inadvertently sparing me the torment. But now several gods were fighting for control. They all pushed against each other in their battle to establish dominance. Unlike the devouring heat, I couldn't control this foreign mana. I could only curl up and scream as my body was torn apart from the inside. The gods did not expect this, Werman muttered, looking up at the sky. They seemed to be in quite a panic. Mestinora wishes to descend and restore order to the divine power of the gods inside you. Can you remove these ornaments from your arms? No! I desperately shook my head. Even sitting was beyond me. How could anyone expect me to roll up my sleeves and start messing around with intricate charms? Werman crouched down and reached out to me, but I was too far away. Even in his human form, he wasn't able to move from his spot. Then what's the point of transforming in the first place? How stupid can you be? This is troubling. You're gonna have to bring Ferdinand here. Through tears blurred my vision, I saw Werman stand up again. I couldn't tell whether he really was concerned. His voice betrayed not a trace of emotion, but he was definitely looking for something. Someone is trying to open a path here, he said. There are some mana concerns, but inviting them seems worthwhile if they can remove your ornaments. I nodded as much as I could. No doubt he was referring to Eglantine. Unless someone intervened, the divine power swelling and rebounding in my body would surely kill me. A Roman slashed the air, creating an entrance that stood out like a sore thumb in the perfectly white garden of beginnings. No sooner had its iridescent barrier wavered than small explosions popped all around the former god. Oh, it's Ferdinand! Nobody else would use charms from the god of concealment to sneak into this place and start attacking. Not that his bombardment appeared to be doing much. A Wehrman looked slightly annoyed, but that was all. It was not your mana that opened the path, Quinta. I assume you employed another of your craven tricks. So be it. Come here and remove mine's arm ornaments. For what purpose, Ferdinand asked, still unseen. To allow Messinor to descend. I refuse. Wait, no! Ferdinand appeared out of nowhere, having likely removed his concealment charms. I could tell that he was still in battle mode. He had several magic tools in hand, and appeared to be gauging the distance between him and a Wehrman. This was bad. Refusing the goddess meant refusing my only hope of surviving. I reached out a trembling hand toward Ferdinand, terrified of my approaching demise, but he was too busy staring at a Wehrman to notice. Ferdinand, help! I see, a Wehrman said. Mine staff will complete your book of Messinora and allow you to claim the foundation. A most adequate plan, and one that leaves you without any blood on your hands. I would expect no less from you. That's not what he's planning, dude. He didn't know that this was coming. The former god paused and thought, Loath though I am to admit it, I must acknowledge you as the next sent. Mine, it is unfortunate, but there's not enough time to support your ascension to the throne. He shook his head in disappointment, but his resignation was clear. Quinta, it seems unnecessarily cruel to leave mine in her current state. Show some compassion and put her to rest, then hurry up and die the foundation. Ferdinand inspected us both, concerned. He must have then noticed my desperation, because he knelt down beside me, keeping a cautious eye on a Wehrman all the while. Would allowing Messinora to descend save Rosemine? Only the gods can control divine power. There's nothing more mere mortals could do for her. Ferdinand ground his teeth. Rosemine, do you oppose Messinora descending into your body? No! Save me! Good God! Ferdinand put away his magic tools and pulled out what appeared to be a small sweet. He wrenched open my clenched jaw, stuck it in my mouth, and then popped one in his own mouth. Is this the cure for the instant death poison? Because that's the only thing I could think of. Before rising to his feet, he moved to stand between a Wehrman and me, then struck the former god with an attack. I couldn't see it through his cape, but there was another explosive pop. This is a less potent version, Ferdinand said. Stay frozen while I rescue Rosemine. Ah! A Wehrman groaned in pain, though I couldn't understand why. He'd weathered all the other attacks like they were nothing. I received my answer when I saw Ferdinand toss aside a silver tube. He must have hit a Wehrman with an instant. That's what I thought! That's what I thought! So that thing he fed me was the antidote. It tasted pretty bitter. Only once the Wehrman was dealt with did Ferdinand roll up my sleeves and start removing my defensive charms. It hurts. I understand, but you must stay still. That was easier said than done. The pain was intense enough that even the slightest movement brought about a fresh wave of agony. He'd never had trouble ignoring my writhing and complaining before. Couldn't he continue that trend and get this over with already? Lord Ferdinand, Lady Rosemine, was this really worth interrupting the transference ceremony Eglantine called? Her worried question reminded me that she had opened the path in the first place. She was supposed to have come here, not Ferdinand. I am removing some of Rosemine's charms so that Messinora may descend into her body. Do not just stand there. Help me. You can do well to realize that you too will climb the towering stairway if something happens to her. Eglantine came over at once, responding to the urgency of the request. She paled as soon as she saw me. Lord Ferdinand, what in the world happened to Lady Rosemine? I do not know, he replied. Frustrated, but she will die unless Messinora descends into her body. It was then that he finished removing the charms from my first arm. Could you keep her arm in place? I cannot find the clasp. Damn it. Ferdinand pinned my arm down while Eglantine quickly rolled up my sleeve. The moment the final charm was removed, Messinora's voice echoed through my mind. I shall dismiss you for a short while, but this time I will not grant you access to my library. And with that, my consciousness was plucked away. Just boop! Pluck you away. The world around me faded into a blank white void. I'm banned from the Goddess of Wisdom's library? No! Gone was my only reason for looking forward to the afterlife. The despair had just set in when Messinora's voice reappeared in my head. I am finished. Now go. Did something happen? Did you do something to my body, I asked? Ferdinand will probably keep me in the dark again, so this is my best chance to find out. The last time I descended into your vessel, I dyed you completely. You would not have felt so much pain if you had waited for my influence to fade, but alas, that contributed to how the god's power reacted inside you. Was there another reason, I asked? Quinta's magic tools blocked my descent. No. The gods answered a Wehrman's call for aid and channeled their mana into you with enough force to overwhelm your charms. Was that really necessary? The charms were designed to block the descent of a certain goddess, not to stop the god's blessings, so the rush of divine power meant to overcome them hadn't faced any resistance whatsoever. The god's power had slammed straight into me, racked me with more pain than any human could endure. The gods were not acting with malice, but they did wish to spite Quint for lashing out at a wereman. So they put me through hell to get back at Ferdinand? I couldn't say I was impressed. I regret that you were wrapped up in all this. Still, I shall say no more and return before Quintus starts to rampage in his impatience. She was making him out as some kind of angry beast, which simply wasn't true. Sure, he was calculated and ready to do anything, however immoral, to accomplish his goals, but for the most part he was really quite even-tempered. I wouldn't say he's impatient. No, he acts under Avaglaive's influence, and any discipline he might have vanishes when it comes to his Geduld. Oh, she's his Geduld! Oh, at this point. From now on, I would rather you both stay far, far away from a wereman. Okay, whatever. Just let us finish what we gotta do, and then we can get away from all this, okay? Messinora sounded genuinely concerned for the former god. Plenty of stories claimed she was devoted to him. He had saved her life, apparently, and it seemed that they were true. I can understand why she wouldn't want Ferdinand near him when he had charged into the Garden of Beginnings with explosives in hand. If one looks only at the things he's done there, then, yeah, the Angry Beast comparison makes sense. Understood. Upon my return, I will take Ferdinand and leave the Garden of Beginnings. Good, and make haste to die in Jurgenschmidt's foundation. That is the Wereman's wish, and why the gods lent you their power to begin with. Though my exchange with the Wereman had spiraled out of control, it was true that the gods wanted Jurgenschmidt to survive. I wasn't opposed to granting their wishes. Their divine power would prove essential to our cause, and they had given me various blessings in the past. I thank you for assistance, O goddess of wisdom. Praise be to the gods. Okay, I'm going to have to end this here. We'll do more of this tomorrow because I have to be at work at 2. I'll see you guys in the next one.